Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to RCI TV, and today we're hitting up Automobilista 2 with some Group C racing. Road America will play host to tonight's one-off event, situated midway between Milwaukee and Green Bay in Wisconsin at Elkhart Lake. 6.52 kilometers long with 14 turns. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator. Alongside me, Dan Van Zoofen, and behind the cameras, Jesse Lee. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, John. Yes, as you say, Road America, we're racing on American soil on Automobilista 2 with Group C cars, Brazilian stock cars, and GT Legendary cars. I'm not that familiar with AMS2, so I may be wrong. But the point is, we just finished qualifying, John, and we have an interesting pole position.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, last time, if cast your minds back to Automobilista 2, we had some succeeding AI in the race, but today humans have prevailed. Horst Adler taking your pole position, Peter Wren in second place, and then the first of the AI pipping Tim Ireland to P3. Mark Trundle, obviously the AI in P5, and Andy Boardman just shuffled his way somewhere down the list to P7. A late gain in a qualifying lap from Hubert Hauser up into P3, so shuffling Rinaldi and Tim Ireland down another row. Andy Boardman P7, and then we've got Cormac Malloy down in P11, one of the other humans. So if you're new to the world of AMS2 and you're wondering who can we tell who is AI and who is not, anybody with an asterisk is marked as an AI on the left-hand side of the screen, so this should be fairly easy to keep a track of, hopefully up here in the booth as well. But it's good to see, of course, the option in the game to fill in AI. Of course, when grids get a little bit sparse, it's good to bump the numbers up. And as you said in your intro, Dan, of course, a little bit of multi-class going on tonight, so traffic management is going to be one of those factors that's on the driver's kind of radar. Of course, a very fast circuit, Road America. The faster you drive these cars, the more downforce they kind of generate, and of course it's a very tricky car to get your head around. Of course, big old turbos take ages to spool. Again, the weather's been a little bit unpredictable in the practice and qualifying, so this could carry over to the race. This could make for some very interesting racing, Dan.
Yes, indeed, and worth mentioning because the gaps are so big, as you can see on the timing sheets. It has rained in quali, and I think it has also dried up quite a bit during the qualifying. So that's a big reason why the gaps are so big. But as you mentioned before, multi-class racing, and especially because we have Group C cars, I think it will be a very chaotic race. What about you, John?
Yeah, chaos, I reckon, is going to happen at some point. Of course, if the weather does change, of course, those who watched the last broadcast of AMS2 will know that different parts of the track can be wet. Some parts can be dry. I mean, we saw, obviously, at the Nordschleife, the whole GP section was bone dry at one point. It got to Hatzenbach and it was absolutely flooded, cars spearing off left, right and centre. So again, that could be another factor in today's race. Of course, just having a quick scroll through here of the board. Of course, some very different times at the top end of the field. Of course, Horst Adler and of course Peter Wren towards the top, of course, followed very closely by Hubert Hauser as well. So some expert drivers in the AMS field maybe that have played a little bit more than our regular members. Andy Boardman just being told with a one-place grid penalty, so he's down to P7, just behind Tim Ireland, separates themselves with an AI car. So again, Andy Boardman going to have to dispatch of Mark Trundle to see if he can get closer to Tim Ireland. Of course, Tim Ireland, tonight's event admin, cooking up the madness as always, as he does regularly on Mondays in ACC, but also dipping his toe into the AMS2 waters. So if you do have any kind of ideas maybe that you want to race, or car and track combinations that could be good together, or maybe a race that you've simulated offline and you think, hey, that's pretty good, let's get involved in RCI, then maybe Tim Ireland is the man you need to speak to on that one. But again, something very different for you and I, Dan. Again, you said just before we went live, not a lot of experience in it, AMS2, and it certainly looks like a fun game from what we've seen so far on the broadcast.
Yes, indeed it does. Of course, last week we had a preparation for Daytona on iRacing, so RCI truly has everything and also races with everything and every game in this community. The race is 40 minutes long, and worth mentioning, we have a pit stop, a mandatory pit stop. Now, I don't know how it works with tire changes. Will the tires last? We, of course, have soft dry tires and hard dry tires. And because it rained in qualifying, it may rain again, John.
Yeah, weather's certainly going to be the factor, isn't it? Like you say, a mandatory pit stop tonight with 4 tires to be changed. In AMS, you can pick certain sets of tires to change, so you can change all of the left sides, you can change all of the right sides, you can change the front axle, the back axle in various combinations. So of course, drivers having to take all 4 tires at some point during the race. Of course, no pit window, just a mandatory trip down pit lane, 4 tires to boot, and off you go again. So probably the strategy tonight, Dan, is going to be soft tires from the start, see how they fare up towards the midpoint of the race. 20 minutes in, come down the pit lane, another set of softs, off you go to the checker, and maybe do a sun dance all the way around, because you probably don't want to drive these cars in the wet.
Easier said than done, because I wouldn't probably not even want to try drive them in the dry. I mean, Group C cars, aggressive cars, of course, the legendary race cars of the 1990s. We had a discussion earlier if the Group C cars raced or in 1978 or 1989. They raced officially in the World Endurance Championship in 1989. Spoken about dates. Today we're racing, and as I thought, what was it, John? Which date were we racing on? I think it was 17th July.
1986? Question mark.
July 17th, 1986 is the date, the virtual date on this beautiful Road America track. We're waiting for the race to commence here.
Just got Jesse Lee on our ears explaining the rank system to me and Dan on a crash course. Apparently S1678 is very good in terms of AMS. S is the safety rating, and the number is, of course, the speed or the driver rating, shall we say. So, of course, Peter Wren just behind. F safety rating 1450 in speed. Again, not too much difference on the speed numbers, but the safety rating, of course, a little bit higher. U apparently means unassigned, and I'm guessing D is one of the kind of lower ranks, of course, that we see with Tim Ireland. And as you mentioned earlier, Dan, of course, RCI branching out into kind of all sorts this season. We've got, of course, ACC stuff kicking off again on the website. We've got AMS2 kicking off on the website with these one-off events as well with Tim Ireland. We're also going iRacing. We've got a big announcement in the world of iRacing. Currently, sign-ups are open for the first big series, IMSA Season 1, where we're going to be visiting some of the most iconic tracks across America with the hopes of heading to Europe for Season 2. And if you don't have an iRacing account, we are offering you 3 months free iRacing. That's completely free when you sign up to the IMSA event. So get your name down and, of course, get that claimed and get some practice under your belts for that one. Of course, you do still have to own the tracks of the season, except Virginia and Laguna Seca, I'm being told. And, of course, you do have to own the car that you're going to be competing in as well. So a little bit of money to trickle into the iRacing pool, and of course get your name down for that one, and that will be very wonderful indeed. And RCI calendar this week, of course, tomorrow we do head to Midweek Masters Season 1, heading to Dan's homeland, that's Holland. We're going to head to Zandvoort for round 2, featuring 2 splits of solo drivers, one for the seasoned drivers and another for the rookies joining for the first time. This season, of course, will be run over 60-minute races to accommodate some of the newer members, and the first season of the year features 5 rounds from the ACC's base game, making it a great opportunity to get a taste of sim racing in ACC's friendliest community. And Tom Shipston took pro honours last week, and Keith Whittle took the rookie victory, so some solid starts to the championships. And Dan, that's your slot of the week. We're going to see you back on RCI TV tomorrow, so we've had double Dalton and double Dan this week.
Yes, thank you. And you've just taken the blow. It's not Holland, it's the Netherlands. The Holland is a province. Anyways,
I'm being schooled.
We're almost starting to race here. We have 40 minutes, the race length. Timer's going. Race hasn't taken off yet, so we're probably waiting on the lights to go off, or something has gone wrong. Cars still standing still. Do we have a warm-up lap, John? Question.
I think we weren't. I think we were going straight from a standing start. I did speak to Tim Ireland briefly last night. I think we were trialing a rolling start, but some things don't quite go to plan on rolling start. So then he was going back to a standing start, and it looks like possibly a standing start hasn't quite worked either. So do bear with us while we get this race underway at the moment. Of course, we did say Midweek Masters, of course, tomorrow. If you are looking to get involved in that, head on over to the website. That's racerci.com. Get your name down. Of course, it's free to enter. There's no entry fees at all. Get your name down and get for some good old friendly racing. Of course, you can find all the links down below for everything that's relevant to the RCI world, including our website, our Discord, and of course our partners. Those, of course, being cycled around in the bottom left-hand side of the screen very regularly in the broadcast. Of course, AK Esports, a leading Italian company in esports management and organization across the world, not only working with the FIA and SRO motorsports groups, but also Dallara and Porsche, among many other brands. And of course, providing our server solutions here at RCI, not just for, of course, ACC, but also for the worlds of iRacing and, of course, AMS2. At driver61.com, you can, of course, get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code. There's a link down in the description below. And, of course, head on over to driver61.com. But we're about to get going. A very sudden start from Tim Ireland there. Of course, the lights visualized on the screen for you. We are green. Everybody getting off to a relatively safe start. No turbos bogging down ever so slightly. Sauber's looking quite strong towards the front of the grid. Of course, Adler gets the jump. We've got an AI up in the mix between him and Peter Wren as well. We've got Martin Trundle here going around the outside. It's not Martin, it's actually Mark, but we're going with Martin because it sounds like more of a parody name. Jostling for position down into turn 3. We've got a Chevrolet up the inside. There was some contact there on Tim Ireland's Porsche 962, and some goofy steering alignments going on as well in AMS2, as we saw at the Nordschleife when we last raced. Cormac Malloy, meanwhile, down in P10, up into P9 very suddenly, and Adler has gone for a dive on the AI, and it's not quite worked out. There's no ABS in these cars. He's ran too deep down into the bottom of the circuit, and off the track he goes, and lots of time lost there. So Adler to the back of the grid, Andy Boardman with him as well, so quite potentially they could work together. But from the get-go, Dan, AI looking very strong indeed.
Yes, first minute has gone past, and then, as you say, AI leading this 40-minute long race, just coming out of carousel, or coming into carousel, turn 10 that is. Very long sweeping right-hander, very tricky, especially in the Group C car here. But indeed, AI in the lead with Pete, not AI, a human, in second place, followed by Trundle, but that's AI. 2024, of course, year of the AI, upcoming AI, and we see them in the lead, John.
Yeah, not only AI in the terms of ChatGPT, but maybe AI is going to take over the sim racing world very shortly indeed.
Oh, God.
Riding on board here with Tim Ireland in the Porsche 962, of course, towards the end of the lap now. We are down into turn 13, and Tim Ireland's gone round. Not sure what's happened there. Maybe some contact. We didn't quite see it, but maybe just caught the dirt on the outside. Everybody sailing past event admin Tim Ireland. He's going to have to get back underway in the 962. Tim Ireland now to the back of the field. Cormac Malloy up into P10. Adler to P9, and Andy Boardman has found his way into P8. But meanwhile, towards the front, of course, Andy Boardman here chasing down Bull for P7 in the Chevrolet GTP. The Chevrolet GTP is a bit of a kind of what-if car. You know, Chevrolet made a Group C car. This basically would be it, we're being told, and got some stats on the horsepowers here. Of course, the Chevrolet GTP, 802 horsepower, weighing in at just over 1,000 kilos, 1,015 kilos. There is a Nissan somewhere in the field. There's a couple of those there. 918 horsepower at 995 kilos. The Porsche being one of the lowest horsepowered cars at 710, but weighing in slightly lighter at 935 kilos. And the Sauber C9 seems to be a pick of the bunch at the moment. Of course, 850 horsepower, weighing in at 987 kilos. So lots of power, not a lot of weight, and the downforce very basic, Dan. We're being told the kind of faster you drive these cars, the more grip they generate. So it's all about being brave in these.
Yes, and that's easier said than done, especially against AI, because I don't know if AI make mistakes, especially in these races. Of course, you still have human errors, but if AI don't make mistake and stay. Oh, spoken about mistakes. Pete there on the grass, but managed to save it and keeps the podium position still in reach. But yeah, as I was talking, AI doesn't make mistake. Human errors do exist, as we just saw. 4 minutes. And there's a lot of action, John.
Yeah, Andy Boardman here finding his way past a few of the AI, but locking up, going wide, and the AI has nowhere to go. We've got another crash in the background. That's possibly Adler and Cormac Malloy coming together in both the Saubers. So Cormac Malloy now down into P11. Tim Ireland finds his way up into P10. And of course the number 60 there on the comeback drive after qualifying so well towards the front of the grid, but just getting it wrong on the opening lap. That's of course Hubert Hauser, aka Werbung, on that one. Of course the cameras are a little bit funky in AMS2 sometimes. The last corner doesn't seem to like the TV cam at all, but of course, Adler down into turn 1. Of course, Andy Boardman just ahead. We're going to see the kind of power maybe that the Sauber has over the Porsche on the long drag down from turn 3 through, of course, the kink, shall we say, of turn 4 before we get to the heavy braking zone of turn 5. Could Adler put a move on Boardman?
Yes, indeed. As we see some action now, Adler probably wanting to go down the outside, doesn't make a move yet on Andy Boardman in P7 here in the Group C Porsche, as we are coming down to turn 6. A very heavy braking zone, tricky left corner, then coming down to turn 7, which is in most cars flat out, not in these Group C cars, even though they have a lot of downforce now. Going down, hurry downs. Again, a really heavy brake zone. Andy Boardman managing the gap here, sneaking away from Adler here in 8th position, as we're still in cockpit view. Again, that very, very long right-hander carousel, very tricky and easy to make a mistake as we speak. Adler then in P8 makes a mistake, spins out, doesn't really touch the wall, but will probably lose a few positions here and there. Coming down in P11, rejoining the track in P11, and the Group C cars, of course, they're tough to manage, and it shows, John.
Yeah, very tough indeed. It seems any driver gets remotely near a patch of grass and the car doesn't like it, off they go. Very stylish spin from Adler. Did very well to kind of 180 the car back the right way for the kink of turn 11 and got back underway very nicely indeed. But meanwhile, towards the front of the field, of course, Peter Wren in the number 65 Sauber here, chasing down Trundle in the Nissan. Of course, anybody with an asterisk next to their name is in fact an AI car, so it's proving to be a little bit of a challenge here tonight for the humans once again. Of course, the Nordschleife proved to be just as tricky, but looks like the Sauber's got some fantastic legs on it. However, the Nissan, of course, with the higher horsepower, certainly pulling away and putting up a good fight down into the bottom of turn 5. Of course, like you say, a very heavy braking zone. It's easy to overcook, as we saw on lap 1. And if Peter can keep near the AI, quite possibly could have a move down into turn 12, providing the Saubers a little bit better in the corners. It looks very confident through the slower stuff, but as soon as you get and wind the turbos of the Nissan up, the Nissan stretches its legs and begins to pull away. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game here tonight, Dan. Of course, one car very strong in a straight line, another car very strong in corners. So it's, you just got to find that gap and really go for it.
Yeah, as you say, we have a lot of different cars, a lot of different Group C cars. Every car, as Pete goes down a little bit on the grass, but every car has its disadvantages and advantages, and we see that the Mercedes doesn't really have the acceleration of the Nissan as it is, and that's why the AI is pulling away from Pete. The only human in the top 5 here, only human in the top 6. Andy Boardman is down in P7 there. So it will be a feisty fight here for the podium positions as Pete goes down the inside of the AI Nissan. And will he make the move? He in fact will not make the move. He did get a better exit with a little bit of contact, and he's now up into P2 as we approach the first blue flags, John.
Yeah, first blue flags indeed. Very well spotted. Of course, we do have a few different cars kind of sprinkled in throughout the field just to kind of break up the traffic and maybe try and keep some battles alive. Of course, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. But Peter there finding a way past the Nissan. That was the spectacle of 918 horsepower versus 850 horsepower with very similar weights. So Sauber very good in the corners, of course, much easier to drive potentially the Sauber compared to the Nissan. But the AI, like you say, not making any mistakes at all. It's going to be very hard for the humans to catch up, like you say, down with the of course, with the human error rate that we do have. We've already seen Adler go around. We've already seen Hubert Hauser again go around as well. Tim Ireland's had a trip through the grass. Andy Boardman, I think, is the only driver that's been relatively unfazed from the opening 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's still in P7, pretty consistent as we speak. 5-6 seconds to the next position, as we see Adler on Ireland, P9 against P8. A human fight this time, so maybe we see some human errors involved, as we already almost have passed 10 minutes, but we still have a lot of action to go as we come down to the hurry downs. That's 2 turn 8 here. Adler still looking for an opening here, can't quite get past Tim Ireland. And let's see if he can make any changes. Well, he's not going to make any changes with a trip through the grass. So again, a little bit of a mistake, which cost you dearly, John.
Yeah, of course, the grass is the worst enemy of the Group C car, should we say there. So Adler losing a lot of time to Tim Ireland, although, of course, just over 30 minutes still left. Of course, a little bit more traffic there to navigate around. It's the sheer speed difference of these older Brazilian stock cars versus the, of course, very fast Group C cars with the turbos being wound up to almost kind of hyperspeed back in the day. It was a very interesting era of racing. Of course, big old turbos, big old kind of spooling times, and it's all about keeping the car kind of in boost range and getting it along the way as fast as you can. Of course, reliability was a huge issue back then, and almost scooping up one of the back markers there, the low slung front end of the Sauber, almost acting like a ramp car against the much higher Brazilian stock car. But yeah, finding a way around is Adler, and being told in our ears, Dan, Pete is catching the AI leader of Rinaldi. It's very slow, 6.5 seconds to the good, but last time by nearly 2 seconds of difference on the lap times.
Yeah, really interesting to see. Of course, last time, as you said before, we had an AI winner on the Nordschleife. It would be great to see a human defeat AI in racing in this Road America 40-minute short enduro race, so to speak. Beat in the lovely German Mercedes, or Sauber Mercedes, I should say. And again, rocking that German livery, which is great to see. Now coming down the moraine sweep. As I no, that's actually the kettle bottoms, but yeah, Pete catching P1 here. It's almost as if some Group C cars are in different classes, but they can keep up with each other. The other car is like a high LMP downforce car, and the other one is a Formula 1 rocket ship on the straight. So that's great to see, and makes for some nice changes as we see Pete taking a small trip down the grass. And I was wondering if we have a damage model here in AMS2. We of course probably have a damage model, but I don't know if any damage, if you can get any damage from crashing. I did saw that the current P9 Adler had some dirty tracks down the side of his car. So yeah, do you have any others here, any damage, John?
Yeah, I do believe AMS2 does have a full damage model. You can see a little bit of damage on Adler's car, of course, down the left-hand side. You can see the windscreen has got a crack in. I think he's missing a tail light as well. And we've seen some pretty skewed steering from those at the Nordschleife that caught out by the wet section at Hatzenbach as well. So yeah, AMS2 does have a pretty comprehensive damage model. It's you know, one of those things. It's almost a crucial part of any racing game now, isn't it? You know, such titles as
Definitely.
You know, Beam NG with fantastic damage model simulation. Can you imagine if kind of Beam NG managed to worm its way ever so slowly into the sims, and the type of damage model you could have would be fantastic. We've got the first of the pitters coming in. It's Cormac Malloy down in P11, noted of course by the little blue box next to his name. So he's going to take a trip down pit lane. A little bit of damage on the front end of that car down the driver's side.
A little bit.
Well, the face looks a little bit droopy on one side, and Dan's just said the exact same thing that Jesse said in our ears. A little bit, yeah. That's maybe more than a little bit, should we say?
But yeah, that's endurance racing for you. 40 minutes, of course, is an endurance race. And so yeah, if you want to finish first, you first have to finish, and that almost counts for every race, not only endurance racing. As we, Peter, Adler, spin down to in the grass, in the wall, damage as well, and that's probably he's probably gonna go to pit lane very very soon. So hopefully he doesn't look too bad actually, but of course there's still a lot of time lost there on the grass in or in the wall, and well, the result is a lot of time loss as we see Tim Ireland still in P8 all by himself. Yeah, really in no one's land. Can't attack Andy Borman, doesn't have to defend of P9, so yeah, really in no one's land.
Yeah, looking a bit messy ahead of Andy Boardman at the moment with the kind of amount of traffic going on. Of course, a lot of the M1 Pro cars, again, shoehorned in for a little bit of grid filling, should we say, in the Corvette GTP. That's actually P6 ahead. That's Bull, the AI car, of course. Andy Boardman's going to have to follow him through the traffic, maybe use the slipstream of the Corvette, although the Corvette is ever so slightly faster, 802 versus 710 horsepower, although much heavier than the Porsche, so we should see Boardman closing up in the corners and closing up on the braking zones, and certainly does down into turn 5, and this is where the kind of twisty stuff begins. The power section, of course, all the way down to turn 5. It gets a little bit twisty through 6, through 7, 8, and of course the long sweeper of 9 and 10, the carousel, before the legs then begin to stretch once again from the kink of turn 11 down to 12. So Boardman's going to have to do it, I would say, in turn 12 if he can get close enough, or possibly in the last corner. Nearly scoops up the GTP car once again. These low slung front end cars seem a little bit funky in AMS2 with the collision box, but Adler in the pit lane up on the jacks, of course. Dan did call that just last lap, of course, with the big damage on the wall. It's probably the sensible thing to do. Get the car straight for the final 24 minutes and see if you can really pound in those lap times and make up any potential positions.
And yeah, indeed, we see some pit stops, logical pit stop being made by Adler there, as we see the Corvette defending, holding off the P7 of Andy Boardman. That's it. There's a little bit of contact of Andy Boardman, a little bit more contact, going through the turn really equally, but Andy Boardman still trying to attack that that Group C Corvette, which is really fast in a straight line, so I won't expect a move down into turn 1. Of course, it's easier said than done. Porsche of Andy Boardman looking, can't quite make it into turn 1, maybe on the next straight if Ball, the AI driver, makes any mistakes. And down the inside, indeed, Andy Boardman leaves the space. Yeah, leaves the space, but can't quite make the move, and it makes a very exciting battle here between a Corvette and a Porsche. Of course, today we had some announcements of TF Sport announcing their livery, of course, returning to the GT Le Mans category this year for the World Endurance Championship. So Corvette again back in real life as well. And Andy Boardman still chasing that tail of the lovely Corvette down to Hurry Downs, as he can't quite yet overtake. And now down the inside, maybe a little bit optimistic, but he makes the move stick. Brazilian car coming down to irritate Boardman as well, but he made the move and is now up to P6.
Yeah, Boardman to P6 there, using the traffic to his advantage. Of course, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away, and certainly giveth to Andy Boardman that time by. Set of sights now ahead in the Nissan. That's Gibson Ross in the pink and white car just ahead. He's got some traffic coming down into the final section of corners as well. Stock car gives the room on the inside. That allows Boardman to close up a considerable amount of time with a much clearer run through turn 12 before we swoop through, of course, turn 13 towards turn 14. And Boardman is right with him. Looks to the inside. The AI has to jink, and Boardman's already gone, but the Nissan still with him, still in the slipstream. Nissan over to driver's right as they crest the hill down the Road America straight, dragging all the way down to turn 1. The Nissan, the much more powerful car, and you can see that already. Once those turbos get spooling, the Nissan is absolutely gone. Andy Borman has to jump in the slipstream and follow all the way through to turn 1. Of course, this is the power section between 1 and 5, so I'll be amazed if Andy Borman can make something stick. The Nissan already going a little bit defensive into turn 3, so the 900 odd horsepower of the Nissan, 918 versus 710 of the Porsche, so Borman's going to be lapping up the slipstream as much as he can down towards turn 5. You can already see the gap opening up there, and wait for the twisty stuff because Boardman will be gaining on that one. I just want to touch on your point of the TF Sport livery announced today. I looked at this on Twitter, didn't really twig what it was. I've looked back now and realised it is the official entry, and a fantastic livery there as Andy Boardman goes up the inside for turn 6. He's going to be on the outside for 7, and that's not where you want to be. The Nissan makes light work up the inside, and now we begin the run towards the carousel, the long, of course, right-hand swooping section. Can Boardman get a better drive? There's a little bit of a bump and run there, but the Nissan still with the legs. Boardman's going to have to go the long way around now, and can he make it stick all the way up to the white line, nearly dipping into the grass, and the Nissan with the much more favoured side swoops up the inside to take the position once again. And I think this fight is going to go all the way to the end. Considering this is AI on human, this is fantastic racing. But just going back to the livery of the TF Sport car, reminds me very much of the Labra competition cars when they ran the C6, and Boardman into the back of the Nissan, and that's lost him heaps of time as he backs off in 12, and he's going to have to do that all over again, Dan. But fantastic racing and a fantastic livery from TF Sport.
Yes, indeed. As I just got told in my ear, wonderful racing. Indeed, Jesse, wonderful racing with 20 minutes to go. I expect to even see the AI as well make some pit stops as we cross the 20-minute mark. So yeah, there was some awesome racing, and that shows that even AI can provide us with enough entertainment, especially in AMS2, as we see some first pit stops for the GT legendary cars. Of course, this is Wood's AI driver. And there we see again Group C cars. We still see some damage, although I thought in my ear it would be repaired. And Adler, of course, all right. So it is repaired, but visually it doesn't sync as Jesse Lee, our broadcaster, tells me. Tim Ireland still in P9 again, in really in no one's land, just counting down the minutes and counting down the laps in this Porsche. So yeah, some great action, John.
Yeah, no man's land, formerly christened the John Dalton zone. If anybody's watched me for a while through the sim racing career, it's where you're not fast enough to catch the guy ahead of you, but you're not slow enough to be caught by the guy behind you. So you just kind of sit in this awkward no man's land, and it seems to be me every time I run any kind of event in any kind of racing sim ever. Just plonk myself in this no man's land and get going. But Andy Boardman has found his way past Gibson Ross somewhere in the last lap. That's Andy Boardman now up to P5, but he's going to have to mount a defense. Obviously, we know the Nissan is very quick in a straight line, and Boardman is going to have to find his way now up into P4. It's going to be a big gap to ask. I think it's about 10 seconds roughly, and he's already outbraked himself into turn 12. Goes very deep, very wide, but lots of extra tarmac on the outside, and the Nissan is much better through the corners, although a little wiggle there through turn 13 before 14, and that's going to lose some time as well. But Boardman's going to have to go very defensive as soon as that Nissan gets wound up. Boardman all over the grass, not sure what happened there. A little bit of a lapse of concentration, maybe fiddling with the UI or just not paying attention, but the Nissan certainly has the run now, drawing alongside, even dabbing the brakes, the AI, just to decide if they're going for the move or not. Going to have to go the long way around of turn 1. The AI goes to turn in, has to turn out. Of course, Andy Boardman's 962 is on the apex, and lots of time lost there on corner exit for the Nissan. But of course, the big straight coming up, Dan. I think the Nissan is going to try something into turn 5.
Yeah, it could be. Let's see. We have some traffic approaching Andy Boardman, 3 wide there, but Andy Boardman survives the traffic. The AI doesn't survive the traffic. Maybe is confused by his fellow AI drivers. Only too good for Andy Boardman. He has a nice gap, and he can finally relax and drive into the distance, into the top 5.
Yes, I'm not sure if you can relax in a Group C car, but certainly going to have the pressure taken off behind.
Probably not.
gonna not have to stare at the mirrors so much, of course. Certainly into the distance. Rinaldi here about to hit some major traffic. Of course, a couple of pro cars, stock car in the mix as well. So the number 65 going to be a little bit delayed there. You see the pro cars peeling off into the pit lane, and Rinaldi also peeling off into the pit lane. So AI definitely taking their mandatory stop. We didn't quite catch their stops last time out of the Nordschleife with how long the track was, and of course Peter also comes down the pit lane in answer. So it's going to be fastest crew down the lane. Who can get their car serviced and turn around the fastest? Can Peter maybe catch a position or two here? Just under 20 minutes to go, of course, past the halfway mark now. It will promote Trundle up into the race lead in the Nissan, although I believe yet to take their pit stop. So again, the AI seems very late on the pit stops. Of course, no pit window here today. You can take your pit stops whenever you like, and of course a lot of drivers electing to almost slice the race in half at this point.
Yeah, as you say, we're way past the halfway point, and indeed, so we see maybe we had some practice races. Maybe Pete did a practice race and decide, all right, 60 minutes. This is the time for a pit stop. So who knows? At least he is following the AI. That does suspect we have no refueling, no fuel issues. So let's see who comes out first out of the pit lane. We see the Mercedes of Pete. That wasn't quite Pete actually, but yeah, pretty long pit stop. I reckon it's probably more than a minute, as we see Pete leaving now. It was the other Mercedes that was leaving the pit lane, who we saw earlier. That's Rinaldi, the AI driver, the I think current leader. I'm not sure.
Yeah, current leader, I believe, Rinaldi on that one. Of course, we've got Andy Boardman down the lane as well. He's off the jacks and gone. The crew, of course, hauling all the gear back over the pit wall into the garages. So Andy Boardman down into P7. So he's going to have to, of course, get the hammer down after some very intense fighting with Gibson Ross being the nearest rival, of course, in the Nissan. Rinaldi and Peter both in similar cars, so it's tricky to track who is who. Of course, the AMS2 overlays and broadcasting not too clever behind the scenes, but we're doing our best up here. Top three still yet to pit. Of course, that's three AI cars. That's Trundle, Ford Roberts, and Gibson Ross in P1, 2, and 3. So Rinaldi is in theory your race leader at the moment. And of course, getting a little bit of traffic there in the form of the BMW M1 Pro car, so that's going to hinder them ever so slightly in stretching the legs away from Peter. So that should go in his favour later on in the race. But yeah, just under 15 minutes to go, and still plenty of action to, of course, come. Hubert Hauser, of course, the next car on the road at the moment. Not sure if he's taken his pit stop, of course, with the big time loss in the beginning of the race. In theory, he has still yet to stop.
AI makes mistakes, as we just see a little touche of I think it was Rinaldi in the Mercedes who tried to lap a car, but got a little bit of contact, and that makes me wonder how sensitive the damage model here in AMS2 is. Probably not a lot, as we can see. Of course, on iRacing, for example, a little touch and you lose a ton of downforce. Same counts for ACC. So yeah, that might come into effect later this race, as we see Webung coming down the inside on T1, passing a lapped car. And as we can see, Pete has had a quite slow pit stop. He has fallen behind Pete, our real human driver, but Pete just has or Webung has let Pete go, so he's back into, I think, a podium spot, as we see Andy Boardman still chasing down the other fellow human drivers, and as we can see, Rinaldi still in the lead. Of course, the top three hasn't pitted yet, 12 minutes remaining, so we'll likely see that very soon.
Yeah, logically, of course, the Rinaldi car, the lead car, on the road. Hubert Hauser making it quite easy for Peter Wren to pass them for position, lifted off coming out of turn 3, so that made it very easy for Peter Wren to get past. So Peter Wren charged up, he's ready to try and take the race lead away from Rinaldi. The gap is about 14 seconds or so as we see the top 2 come into the pit lane. I would say Trundle down the pit lane in an ironic sense. So Trundle is in, Ford Roberts follows, and of course Gibson Ross decides to stay out, of course, with the just under 12 minutes to go. Plenty of time for Gibson Ross to come down the lane. So in theory, we should see Rinaldi and Peter Wren at least up into the top 2 positions, top 2 and 3, sorry, on that one, and maybe even Hubert Hauser could find their way through as well if they are close enough on pace. As we tick down the clock, of course, just over 11.5 minutes to go. Some fantastic racing with the AI and humans. It's great to see. Of course, it makes a bit of a change from seeing all the human drivers kind of duking out amongst themselves, and it's good to see that AI still has a place in, of course, sim racing. I feel like the focus has gone far too much from the AI experience now over to the multiplayer experience, as we see Hubert Hauser there on the grass going into turn 1. Not sure what happened there. Maybe a little momentary lapse of concentration. That is, of course, Cormac Malloy behind in the factory-coloured Sauber C9, looking very beat up indeed. He's currently down in P10, just behind, of course, just ahead, sorry, of Adler in P11. So, of course, the race not really gone Cormac's way, but nonetheless, he has stuck at it, he has persevered, and he will see the checkered flag, hopefully, in 10.5 minutes' time. But, you know, the multiplayer experience is now something that racing simulator developers focus on a lot more. I remember, you know, a good 20 years ago, just under 20 years ago, should we say, for argument's sake, of course, a lot of it was offline racing. You know, you had a lot of AI action. You had, you know, people in their bedrooms essentially simulating a Spa 24 hours across maybe 2.4 hours with time acceleration, lots of AI in the field, and the AI experience was something that was, you know, really marvelous back in the day. But now it does seem to have swayed much more towards the multiplayer experience, of course, with more, you know, competitions cropping up, more paid events. Of course, the internet is more accessible than ever around the world now, not much like the early days. Of course, when we all began sim racing, it was very tricky to find friends and communities, of course, in the niche world of sim racing, but it's fantastic to how it's come. And we're almost going back now to the early days here with some AI racing. It's weird how it comes full circle as Gibson Ross comes down the lane. Rinaldi will take over the race lead, and hopefully Peter Wren will follow very shortly indeed, just some 9 seconds behind on the race leader now. And there we go, shuffling up, 9.5 seconds to gain. So 9 minutes down, 9.5 seconds gap. That's about a second every minute, shall we say, for argument's sake on that one. So we're going to see, do you reckon he can do it, or do you reckon AI will prevail once again in another AMS2 event?
Well, Mission Impossible wasn't actually quite impossible, so we'll see. But coming back on the offline days, of course, especially in these days, 1986, they definitely didn't have online races. But AI being less popular, of course, it's a bit less popular, but I can recall a certain franchise, Gran Turismo, having developed a Sophie system, Sophie AI it's called, and it's currently outdriving the professionals in every way possible. So even though AI is getting a bit less popular with the technology nowadays, it can outdrive the professionals, which is really interesting. But back to the race now, we see the last pit stop, I think, of especially the human side, and indeed it is the last pit stop of the race. Webbing in P9, where will he fall back to? We'll see very shortly. I have also just heard that Pete has lost 6 seconds in his pit stop, so indeed a really slow pit stop for him and a big time loss, and probably it maybe has costed him the win. Of course, the gap is now down, or up to 10 seconds, I should say. It's now down to 9.4. So yeah, again, Pete still gaining now, gaining a lot, and maybe it is possible, but we'll see. Yeah. John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. Like you say, Mission Impossible wasn't impossible, but this certainly is looking like a tricky one indeed. Here we see some AI on AI action in the form of Gibson, Ross and Bull. This is essentially for P6 as the Chevrolet all over the grass there. Certainly looks like the much more confident car in the latter half of this race. It's a little bit goofy with the netcode here. Of course, the AI look like they're kind of crabbing or turning when they're in fact not. They are driving dead straight in the server, so it's a little bit weird to watch Corvette there just sideways down a straight at a good rate of miles an hour to the inside into turn one. Nothing to be had, of course. It's a tricky place to get your nose alongside, and of course the Nissan with the higher horsepower, we expect to see that car prevail down towards, of course, turn 5, but it looks like the Corvette briefly had an overlap before the Nissan turbos began to spool. Of course, there's a little bit of traffic ahead in the form of a GT Legends Corvette there, of course, breaking up the field. It's amazing how high that car looks in comparison to these Group C cars. Corvette looks a little bit more passive on the pass, the Nissan much more aggressive and opening up a much bigger gap indeed. And you look towards the track map, of course, we've not got a lot of traffic clumps, should we say, between everybody. So there's a few cars sprinkled here and there. So we're going to have to pray for a miracle, should we say, for Peter Wren. Can Rinaldi, of course, navigate AI successfully, or will he do the typical AI thing where they become a kind of almost follow the leader aspect of racing, quite kind of famous in the early Gran Turismo days? But looking at where Rinaldi is on the track map, of course, to the right-hand side, just coming down into turn 1. The next car is all the way down at turn 5. So in theory, Rinaldi should not see any traffic at all. Pete is catching. Very small margin down. It's only up about a second from when we last touched in. Of course, 5.5 minutes just under on the clock to go. So I'm feeling this Mission Impossible could be impossible.
Yeah, I was just about to say the exact same phrase, but yeah, it is indeed. It's quite unlikely he will get P1, but maybe we'll see an AI mistake. Who knows? So yeah, that's really interesting. 5 minutes to go now. Not a lot in between the actual lap times between Rinaldi and Pete. So we'll have to wait and see as the minutes tick down. So yeah, a really quiet phase of the race. Of course, everyone has settled down. The action has restored itself to a sort of natural racing state. And I think it's the same for the drivers. Pete probably won't catch the leader. He probably knows that as well, and so he's just ticking down the minutes, ticking down every corner, turn by turn. He'll get closer to the finish line, and I can speak for myself. These kind of races, especially when you're in no man's land, John, it can take quite a while.
Yeah, time does certainly kind of drag, doesn't it? When you're, driving solo, you don't almost look at the road maybe as much as you should. You do spend most of the time, of course, staring at the race timers, as watching it count down, as you see a big oversteer moment there over the grass and the escape road essentially into the back of the pit lane before coming back on in turn 13. Of course, using all the curb in turn 14, and I'd like to stay on board for a lap if we can of Road America. It's been a while since I've driven this circuit, so it would be great to witness, of course, as they come up and over the crest. Of course, the speedo in the bottom left-hand side of the cockpit just kind of disappears there with the compression down into, of course, turn 1. It's a very fast corner, lots of extra runoff area, and then turn 2 is a slight kink in the straight before the hard braking zone, of course, of turn 3. You've really got to set yourself up quite well for this one, because it is a very long drag through essentially turn 4 between the kind of straight and cheese on the bridge indeed. Jesse Lee shouting in my ears on that one. Down to turn 5, it's a very heavy braking zone. It's also downhill, so it does take a lot more energy to get the car slowed down. You can see the rear end there stepping out on Peter, and he does hold it very well. And now up the hill under the Corvette bridge into turn 6. Of course, you've got to keep it tight to the apex there before jumping on the power. Of course, like Dan said earlier, turn 7 is normally flat out in a modern day race car, though maybe a slight lift in these turbocharged monsters before another downhill braking zone into turn 8. set yourself up nicely under the Speedville Bridge, which is an icon of the Road America circuit, for the long sweep of 9 and 10. This is technically a double corner on the circuit map, so you kind of got to go wide and then cut in and punch the power. The sooner you can punch the power, the better, because it sets you up much nicer for the kink. Again, a corner in a modern day race car that is essentially flat out, although a small lift in a Group C. Kettle Bottoms isn't actually a corner, subject to the angle of it. The next corner is, of course, turn 12, which is Canada corner, and all the drivers are overcooking this one on the brakes, using all of the extra tarmac, and hopefully through Thunder Valley and Bill Mitchell Bend, you can keep it very tidy indeed through 13. No extra road needed this time. Hard on the brakes for turn 14, and then, of course, the run up the hill again with a little bit of traffic ahead, and that is, of course, a lap of Road America. It's a fantastic circuit. I'd certainly love to see it in ACC, but I don't think it's going to come, very unfortunately. But it does lead for some great racing, very fast, and it looks very simple on the face of it, but it is a very technical circuit, and drivers proving that one tonight, struggling to master it, even in the short space of time that we have given them for this race.
Of course, not a track we can drive on ACC, but we can drive in iRacing. Of course, you can also drive it in our iRacing IMSA season, which we organize here on RCI. It's round 2, Road America on February 1st. So if you're excited for iRacing and Road America, be sure to hop in our iRacing IMSA season. And I haven't seen something, John, in this race. I've missed something. It's a Sauber Mercedes taking off into the sky.
Yeah, very true. We've not seen any kind of retro Group C kind of weird lifting of the front ends and flipping off into the trees, such as was the case at Le Mans 1 year for the Mercedes crew. Andy Boardman in P5, relatively tame. That's, of course, Cormac Malloy just behind, so no threat to position, down in P9. So Boardman driving cleanly past as well. And as you said, Dan, of course, the IMSA iRacing series is kicking off here at RCI. So if you are new to the world of iRacing and you think, John, how can I get involved but not spend as much money? Well, if you head on over to the sign up in the RCI website, contact one of the iRacing event admins, and they can hook you up with a 3-month trial code to give away for signing up to the season. So 3 months of iRacing subscription, completely free. All you have to do is, of course, purchase the tracks involved in the season, except Virginia and Laguna Seca, and of course the car that you want to use also has to be purchased as well. And I think we have seen the checkered flag out. I think Rinaldi has crossed the line under checkered flag conditions, so the race has, of course, ended. Peter Wren will take, of course, P2. So again, AI has prevailed in AMS2.
Such a shame.
Ford Roberts, indeed, it is such a shame. Ford Roberts will come through in P3, I believe, in the factory-coloured Nissan, with Trundle as well in P4, and Andy Boardman will be your next human to cross the line in P5. A fantastic drive from him in one of the relatively underpowered cars in comparison to the cars ahead of him. And of course the next two will be AI of Gibson, Ross and Bull. They've been duking it out for some laps now, and of course Tim Ireland will be the last car across the line here in the Rocklands coloured liveried 962, and doing a little bit of grass cutting. We have paid for the circuit today, so we are going to use the whole circuit and some more, doing some groundskeeping here for the Road America team. And Tim Ireland will be your last human to cross the line, but Rinaldi has prevailed and beaten the humans once again. So it's humans 2. AI 2, humans 0 in the world of AMS2 here at RCI.
Indeed, these are the end results. So a very interesting race here, with, indeed, as you said, the AI wins. Luckily, we do of course have an AI or a human in the top 3, which is always nice to see. Of course, Andy Boardman rounds off the top 5, an actual human, Tim Ireland, Jesse Stepson, which is not AI. He is AI. And P10 is also human. So yeah, indeed, John.
Yeah, so certainly the AI prevailing once again here in AMS2, and it looks like we do have a disqualification on there as well for Hubert Hauser. Not sure if you didn't do the pit stop correctly. Maybe you didn't take enough tires, but we'll have to get to the bottom of that and maybe bring it to you next time on an AMS2 stream. But of course, it is the time when we do begin to wrap things up very rapidly with the AMS2. Of course, we've got no championship results to go through. It is just a one-off event here today. And if you have liked what you've watched on the broadcast, if you're watching this back, like I know a lot of drivers do, or if you're one of the regular subscribers to the RCI YouTube channel and you see this feed, this video in your recommended feed, then of course head on over to the website. Keep your eye on that if you do want to get involved with us here at RCI AMS2. Of course, Tim Ireland is the madman that cooks up all these concoctions for AMS2. So if you do have an idea in your head and you want to propose it to him, I'm sure he will be all ears on this one. Of course, the RCI calendar, the regular RCI calendar, should we say, where we get to ACC. Tomorrow we will find ourselves back on RCI TV for a triple stream. So Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we're bringing you action here on RCI TV. The Midweek Masters Season 1 is heading to Zandvoort for round 2. Featuring 2 splits of solo drivers, one for seasoned and the other for rookies or beginners, joining us, of course, for the first time. So if you are a little bit nervous and you do want to get involved with us here, then that could be the perfect league for you. Tom Shipston, of course, taking pro honours last week, and Keith Whittle with the rookie victory on that one. We do, of course, have the RCI IMSA event in iRacing kicking off very shortly as well. That's something to get your name certainly down for if you are an iRacing fanatic. Of course, we've got Night Owl Winter Break 2. That comes back on the 27th, so that's off on a week break this week for their final round. They're heading to Alton Park, and of course it's the early GT3 machinery in ACC for that one. Standings currently headed up by Julian Vanbrugh in the head of the field, followed by Lewis Zelch and Tyler Hobston, all in the Porsche 991 GT3, so the first iteration of the Porsche. We've got Les Stevenson in a Jaguar in P5. We've got Joe Dauber in a Hurricane, the original one, in P4 as well. So some real eclectic machinery on that one. So if you are looking to drive something a little bit different, maybe that one could be for you. There is a few events in the pipeline that I'm not yet going to reveal. I'm going to wait for the event admins to announce that one. And of course, we are running Monday's Ferrari Challenge Cup in ACC. That has been a fantastic season so far, and we're only 2 rounds in. Next week we do head to the Nürburgring, and of course round 4 will be at Monza the following week. So certainly keep your eye on that one. If you are looking for some cars that are very fast in a straight line with not a lot of handling capability, that will be the one for you as well. So plenty to offer here at RCI, and plenty going on at RCI TV as well. And of course, a big thank you to our partners that make all this possible. Of course, AK Esports, driver61.com, Fanatec, digitalmotorsports.com, and of course Go Setups. You can find all their links down below in the description. And of course, a big thank you to you guys at home, whether you're watching along, lurking, of course, whether you're a regular part of the community or even helping us out here at RCI. We do appreciate each and every one of you, and it's a wonderful journey that we're going to be on through 2024. Of course, exciting things coming up in the world of ACC, GT2 DLC on the horizon, Nordschleife rumored to be, or confirmed, sorry, to be later on in the year. That's the big one I'm very much looking forward to, that should give ACC a big lease of life in the terms of competitiveness and race events going on throughout all of the communities on that one. Of course, iRacing, we're getting involved in the IMSA series on that one, and of course AMS2 one-offs, and also EA Sports WRC. So if you are looking for some rally action, head on into the Discord, select the rally role and get involved. I believe there's a couple of championships up at the moment. We run 2 clubs. One is for kind of one-off rallies, and the second one's kind of for like championship rallies that are a little bit longer, take up a little bit more time and are a little bit more involved, but plenty of competitive drivers in there as well. So get involved with us here at RCI. It's a fantastic community to be a part of. But yeah, for tonight, we will wind it down there. Of course, AMS2 providing some fantastic action. AI prevailing over humans once again. I'm wondering if humans can ever take a victory off them in AMS2. But it's been a fantastic cast from myself, John Dalton, from Dan Van Zoofen alongside me. You can, of course, catch him tomorrow on RCI TV for Midweek Masters alongside Jesse Lee, the man behind the cameras tonight. We'd like to bid you all farewell and take care of yourselves, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.
Take care.